most of the folks on the call know that before I entered this business, I was a student of comparative religion, but most specifically Tibetan Buddhism. And so I've spent 25 years meditating. I've only been in this business for 24 years, 23 years, I guess. So I've been a meditator longer than I've been doing financial services. And I think meditation actually helps a lot. So I'm really, really, really happy and excited to introduce you to Terry. Terry also loves helping people and helping people grow. She works in global teams and tech organizations, and she teaches mindfulness and stress mastery to enhance sort of performance and human potential. She founded her company, Mindful Stress Management, with a mission to provide evidence-based tools for individuals and organizations experiencing stress and overwhelm. She supports change management within companies, helps eliminate roadblocks to success and well-being for individuals. Now, I don't know what all these things are, but I'm just gonna read this part. Terry is a—
I don't either.
Yeah, oh, you do, come on. She's a certified mindfulness-based stress reduction instructor from UMass Medical School. I know what that one is. She's also a certified stress mastery educator and a diplomat of the American Institute of Stress. I'm glad there is one. I did not know.
Yes.
So I want to turn it over to Terry to begin a presentation. But just before I do that, I'm going to say, everybody, please welcome Terry to us and enjoy this. I'm really glad that we can bring this and sort of support some stress management in these tough times.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you so much, Jonathan. And thanks for the opportunity. It was so good to meet you when we first met, and definitely had this connection around mindfulness. And so I'm glad to be here to meet all of you and do this hour together. So welcome, welcome. I just want to invite you to settle in wherever you are, however you are, and take in, as we go through this workshop that is interactive, experiential, a bit didactic, where I'll explain a little bit about stress. And you can try on some different things, those evidence-based practices that Jonathan mentioned. You can try them out. Some of them you may have done before, but wherever it is, you know, every moment we know in mindfulness, beginner's mind. So wherever you come from, if you come with a lot of practice in mindfulness or little practice, or you just read a little bit about it and are curious, it's okay. Wherever you come from, whatever experience, here you are. So diving in here. So there we go. Jonathan mentioned about me, so I can skip that. Although I do just want to add one thing. I'm the 6th of 8 children. And so I grew up in a very busy household. And when I was about 13 or 14, you know, a very shy, anxious teenager, my brother took me to learn transcendental meditation. So that was such a gift, because even then, as a young girl, I realized like all this chaos was going around, you know, friends and family, and it could be loud, but I could find this place of calm, of quiet for a moment doing transcendental meditation. So that sort of catapulted me into the practice of mindfulness throughout my life, which has been a journey. And I lived in Japan for 5 years, where I practiced Zen meditation, and I have the certification. So I'm really interested in bringing together mindfulness as a practice and also stress management, because they really go together, and mindfulness can go much deeper into compassion and all kinds of practices depending on our intention. But I love how they go together. So that's a little bit about my history and how I got here. So what we'll be doing today is here. Understanding stress. We are in the midst of such huge change, the understatement of the day. But the practices we used to rely on are perhaps gone. Right? The things, the structures we've relied on, the ways that maybe we relaxed or distracted ourselves may be gone. So we want to look at, you know, what's happening with stress? What is this about? And your unique relationship with stress in terms of, you know, where we are with COVID-19. And then we'll do a few practices throughout. And then you can, look at, well, how can I apply some of this to my own life? So we'll do a little bit of an assessment as well. And then if you do have questions, I welcome questions throughout. Again, raise your hand or type it into the chat box, and Sarah will be monitoring that. And okay, so let's just take 1 minute right now to just settle in to just where you are as you are. And just come to this place, whatever you've been doing up to now. Just find yourself, allow yourself to be in the chair you're in, the room you're in. Nothing to change, nothing to do. Just landing right here, right now. And then you just notice what arises. Maybe thoughts, feelings, sensations in the body. So we sort of just pause for a moment. Come with curiosity. We haven't met before. So just allowing yourself to be here and noticing what's stirring inside of you. And then we'll close. And I have this bell I'll ring just to help guide us in and out of the practices. But even with that practice, I want to ask you how you're feeling. If there's a feeling word that comes up in that sitting right now, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Whatever is arising. And could you type it into the chat? Okay. And I can see these too. So my stomach was tense, relieved, peaceful, losing the marbles a bit, not gonna lie. I appreciate that honesty. Relaxed and grateful, agitated and jumpy, rushed, joined late. Yeah. So you see the range of our experience in this moment. Relaxed, however, my stomach feels too full. Okay. So even just taking note where you are in the agitation, in the losing your marbles, in the peacefulness, we are feeling these things anyway. And so sometimes when we stop, we just take note. And a lot around mindfulness is, can I allow myself to feel how I feel? And a really important word as we go through this is, can I be curious? You are your own scientist. You know yourself better than anyone. So be curious about these sensations that come up. Okay. So, and I just want to point out too, if you are writing in the chat box, to make sure that the 2 goes to everyone, unless you do want to write to me privately. I see that someone wrote privately, but just so you know, I'll make sure it goes to everyone if that's what you do want to do. All right, so this is where we are. Lots of changes. And what we want to cultivate, and I think it is a mind that can walk evenly over uneven ground. And this is something we develop over a lifetime. And this is a quote by Rick Hansen, who's one of my teachers whom I love. He's a neurologist, I think he calls himself. But anyway, a teacher, a meditation teacher, a psychotherapist, and does a lot around neuroscience. And so this is what we're doing when we do these practices. We know that we can't change our environment necessarily. We can't control everything, but can we develop a mind, cultivate a mind that can be consistent, calm in the face of uncertainty, right? We're in deep uncertainty, deep change. And I think now more than ever, we really do have an opportunity to cultivate this capacity, this mind that can walk evenly over uneven ground. We may have more time than usual. Not everyone, I know some people have, children at home and they're teaching their kids and working. So I really get that. But even in that and how everything we're doing, we can actually cultivate this capacity. So that's what I want to, hopefully you'll walk away with a little more of how to do that. I know you already have some practices, I'm sure, if you've made it this far in life. So how many people have ever felt like this? I see some hands. Yeah. And I think especially now more people are feeling like this because it's like trying to work Zoom and then people can't hang up and you can't hear people and, the whole thing. So this is a woman clearly stressed. What is stress? Because this is what we're dealing with, is stress, an automatic response to a real, perceived, or imagined threat to your body or your ego. So clearly the coronavirus is real, but we can't see it, but we see the impact of it. And it's definitely a threat to our body. We may get sick. People we love may get sick. It's also a threat perhaps to our ego. We may lose our job. It's a threat to our finances perhaps. A lot of juggling, a lot of unknowns, which the brain does not like. So, and it's very normal that this is up, right? That we are feeling additional stress. In fact, the World Health Organization said way before COVID-19 that stress was the #1 health epidemic of the 21st century. So already in the US and across the world, but WHO is referring to the US, it was a heightened and a serious issue. And now it's just exacerbated. And we know stress is not bad. A little bit of stress, no stress, we would be inactive, doing nothing. So we need a little stress, right? It motivates us, it helps us perform, it gets us, to run that race or to do that performance or to finish a project. So a little bit of stress is healthy. But then we get up to, kind of peak performance, where you feel that flow or you feel like you're in the zone. And then if we stay at this heightened response to stress where our body is activated, heart ratings, we know when we're stressed, our heart rate increases, our blood pressure goes up, our immune system weakens, our digestion slows down. The body is preparing us to work with that danger, to fight it, to run from it, or to shut down and freeze. So ordinarily we feel the stressor, we respond to it, it goes away, we come back to calm, and then we go back up, stress, then come back to calm. We are very much in a heightened chronic state of stress. And once that happens, then the body, it's too much wear and tear on the body. So we move into the sick state, more fatigue, more exhaustion. And if it continues and we just kind of let it go and try to push it away and ignore it, it's going to keep speaking up because the body is just responding to what it needs to respond to because it's feeling the threat. So, and this was evolved over millions of years of evolution. And then we get into breakdown of the body. So we've gone through many changes, right, in the last 2 months, I guess. So what are some of the changes that you've experienced? Some of the big changes in your life that you've experienced in the last couple months? Working longer. Yeah. Oh, a new job. It's interesting. Some people are working longer, even though there's no commute. But somehow this way of working is requires a little bit more, and for different reasons. More people at home together all day, schools closed. But before that, moving out of state, not enough movement. And I see somebody else is going private, so just check your to button. All relationships, unless you want to go private, all relationships navigating through more stress. Yeah, these are really, just take all this in. It's a lot, right? It's a lot that we're dealing with, and this is added stress. So we want to do practices that can help us manage all of this, but also as we see people's comments and what they're going through, I think it also helps us expand our mind and our heart to realize that everybody's going through something. It may be different. We're in the same storm, but we're kind of in different boats. But everybody here in this group, everyone that we see, everyone's experiencing something, and you can see the range here. And it's challenging, and there's more pain. So we want to go easy on ourselves as much as we can. We want to go easy on our friends and our family as much as we can. So that takes some action. So let's do some action. And I'm seeing these other comments: complete isolation from both the most important people and most important activities in my life. That's huge. So anxiety is really big right now. Feeling lonely and depressed is on the rise. So we can do something about it. One is to acknowledge it. That's first, right? But also we'll do a mindfulness practice now to calm the nervous system, calm the system, and connect with ourselves. So this one is called POP Stress Now. And simply, it's an acronym for pause, observe, and proceed. And this is something we can do in 30 seconds. We can move through it, these things, to kind of, well, you'll experience it, so I won't talk so much about it. But you can do it in 30 seconds, you can do it in a few minutes, you can do it in 30 minutes, depending on what you have in you, how much time you have. So I want to practice this now together. Are you up for that? Okay. So we'll do this for a few minutes. And so I just want to invite you again to settle in. No extra tools necessary. No equipment. Just settling into your body, where you are as you are. And we start by just pausing. No action. You can close your eyes if that's comfortable, or you can leave them open. And then you just bring your awareness to your breath. And not changing the breath at all, just noticing I'm breathing. And noticing 3 conscious breaths, an inhalation, an exhalation. And we're going to stay in this pause mode for a little longer than 3 breaths. So just settling into noticing the breath as it is. And you may notice that you sense a part of your body moving as a result of the breath. Perhaps you notice air at the tip of your nose. Perhaps you notice your chest expanding, contracting. Maybe your abdomen, maybe your belly. But there is movement in the body as we breathe. And it can help in doing a mindfulness practice to rest your awareness on that part of the body as it expands with the inhalation and contracts with the exhalation. Awareness of the breath. And noticing when the mind wanders from the breath. There's a lot in our awareness, a lot in our environment. And so we may notice we're thinking about something that happened, or our mind is considering what's next, worry, whatever it is, notice. And then just come back to the breath. We're not eliminating thoughts. We're just noticing. Okay, yeah, there's that stream of thinking. Oh, I'm really worried about such and such or so and so. Okay, name it, and back to the breath. For this moment, for this time, we cultivate this capacity to come back to right now, which is all that we have is right now. And now. And this breath. And the breath moves in and out all day long, 20,000 times a day or so. So here we just start noticing this breath that's keeping us alive in this pause. And then we shift a little into observe. And in observe, we start noticing body sensations. Maybe you're noticing the belly or the chest moving as you breathe. Maybe you're noticing a tight stomach, or maybe that's changed. Maybe you're noticing tingling, or warmth, or coolness, pulsation. Just sensing the body again as it is. And noticing the hands resting where they are, palms of the hands, fingers. And then perhaps emotions are arising and you're noticing emotions. So again, we greet whatever comes in our awareness, our body sensations, our emotions, and our thoughts. And we allow, and we are open to what's there, and we are curious. Maybe bring some curiosity. And also in this observed state, being aware, observing that there's safety in this moment. Your body is here, I'm assuming safe. And perhaps you notice the connection of the whole body. From feet to head, we're connected. And then we proceed. So with intention, we take the next step. We've paused, we observe, and then we take the next step, and allowing us to be responsive, perhaps more than being reactive. And we show up in whatever perfect or imperfect way. We show up, take the next step. And I want to invite you in this step to consider how you might want to show up in the time ahead, in this evening. How do you want to show up? So we can have an intention of show up with calm or energy or passion or confidence or compassion, whatever it is for you. How do you want to show up? And then we congratulate ourselves for taking a little pause. And you'll hear the bell. And it doesn't end the session necessarily, but shifting us into another way of talking and thinking. So I'd love to invite you, if you want to share if a word came up for you in terms of your intention, what you want to bring forth going forward for tonight. If something came up for you. Oh, I want to show up energized for my son. Yeah. Presence for my family. Positive energy. So all of these things start with an intention, right? Honesty with myself, calm and optimistic. And intention moves into attention towards things and action. So wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And do you have any questions about the POP process, this mindfulness practice? We did it for about 6 minutes, just in case you're interested. Did you notice anything that you're curious about or you want to ask about? I think I see Jonathan's hand there.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, can you hear me?
Yes.
I wanted to ask or note that when we first started, my heart was I could feel my heart in my chest just hammering. And then by the end of it, it had both slowed down and became much subtler, which is really interesting. I don't know where my head was before, but there was a physical shift, not just a mental shift.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. And our next slide is going to talk just about that, Jonathan. And I did not pay Jonathan to say that. Anybody else?
We do have some comments in the chat.
Okay.
Like from one person, I noticed I have a lot more in there to dig into. Another comment is like the concept of responsive rather than reactive. And very calming and reminding me about my self-care.
Great.
Yeah. What I find very interesting too is when I took that moment to really just be quiet, my automatic response for my body was just to start crying. So I think throughout all this time, there's a lot of repression because you feel like you don't have time or the space to be able to deal with that.
Yeah. Thank you. And I hear that a lot, Sarah, that just tears come for me too, just tears come up so easily now. Because even if perhaps our life feels okay, there's a lot of pain around us. And maybe for us too, which people mentioned. So yeah, and we can distract ourselves and keep going and be busy. And then when we stop, wow, what we feel. And it is so important for us to explore that and be with it. So let's talk about what's happening with the brain. So this is, when I learned this, I just saw someone's comment, I feel like crying and I don't know why. And I just really want you to honor that feeling, that emotion. And, sit with it and love it like you would a child who's crying. You would nurture that child and what's going on. We need to do that for ourselves right now and for others, but we must tend to ourselves, right? And regulate our emotions so that we can also help others. I just wanted to acknowledge that. But so the brain, this 3-pound organ in our body, is unbelievable. One, it's hardwired for survival. So it's heightened right now, right? Because it really likes certainty. The brain likes certainty. And there's not a lot of certainty right now. So we are heightened. And I think when we learn this, that this is this physiological thing happening, it sort of normalizes what we might be experiencing and how we can take action to kind of be the boss of our brain a little bit and feed it. So 90 to 95% of the cues the brain responds to are non-conscious. So they're just coming in and we are reacting to it because, you know, it's just happening. Luckily, there's a lot of it, you know, it just needs to respond, but a lot of it is unconscious. And so we want to bring a little more consciousness to how we're feeling, what our behavior is saying. And then the brain takes about 20% of the body's energy, more than any other organ in the body. The brain does not sleep, so the brain needs to be plugged in like our phones, right? And we'll talk about how to plug the brain in and kind of give it energy. And then about the brain and why POP works and how mindfulness works in general. The brain has these 3 levels, and you may have probably heard this, and I'm not a brain expert, but I have studied a lot in my courses in neuroscience, but I'm not a neuroscientist. But the basics is the brain stem is the oldest part of the brain, and it's looking and monitoring the autonomic parts of our body. Is my heart beating? Am I balanced? Is my temperature okay? If that's off kilter, then it's activated to like get that balance, right? It's seeing a little danger. So that's its job. It's the oldest part of the brain. Next came the limbic system, the amygdala and the kind of fear center, emotional center of the brain. And that's looking more at, am I safe? Am I loved? Can I trust the people I'm with? And if that's endangered, right, then it's activating the pituitary gland, hypothalamus, the adrenals to pump stress hormones in our body. And if that's happening, we are prepared for fight, flight, or freeze. Very natural. We want to defend ourselves. We don't always have to fight, but that's what was built into us over millions of years of evolution. It makes us want to fight. It's energy. Stress is energy, right? Stress is not bad in and of itself. So it can save us. Car is cutting in front of us. We react really quickly. Whew, thank God that took over. However, we're in this chronic state of stress, or even not chronic, acute, and there it is. And if our body is reacting to a threat that appears to be a threat, the executive function of the brain, which is the newest part of the brain, it goes offline. And that's the part of the brain that makes decisions, that plans, that strategizes, that problem solves, that can be creative, that can think into the future and think like how to plan A, plan B. That's happening. But if we're in this state of heightened alert and fear, we're not thinking that clearly. And that's where reaction happens instead of response. And that's where, so when we do the POP, when we calm down the body, we're just noticing the breath. The brainstem gets the message that I'm not under threat. Okay, I'm sitting here, I'm safe. It starts regulating the heartbeat. We notice our emotions. Oh, I'm safe. Okay. You know, maybe we're crying, whatever is there, but we're aware of it, we're naming it. We're not just reacting. And then it allows, when we think of that word, that intention word, it's like, okay, now I can bring my prefrontal cortex into the mix and take a little more conscious action. So that's how, you know, this works together. And that's why I like POP, because it's kind of from that 3-tier, from the base to the limbic to then the prefrontal cortex. So that's a little bit about the brain. Okay. So how do we maintain a healthy brain? This is a self-assessment for you, for your eyes only. You don't have to share it. But I want you to look at these 5 things. So these are 5 things that neuroscientists have identified as really important to keep the brain healthy and energized. Sleep. So I want you to look at this and write down on a piece of paper from 0 to 10, what's your capacity for sleeping right now? How are you doing? 0 is like, I can't sleep at all. 10 is like, I'm sleeping like a baby. So 0 to 10, where are you? Nutrition. How do you feel like you're eating? You're eating well, you're eating balanced, it's your judgment call. Movement and exercise. Are you getting enough movement and exercise? 20 to 30 minutes a day is said to be really healthy. And it's harder to get that now sometimes, although we are in the Bay Area. I think all of us are in the Bay Area. And I'm not sure. But, you know, so we can get outside, which is really fortunate. But movement and exercise. Also, recharge and breaks during the day. Our body is meant to oscillate. We're meant to like go do and then calm down. And then we, you know, engage and act, and then we calm down. Even if that break is 30 seconds, a few breaths, or maybe that break is a nap, or maybe that break is turning on music and dancing for a minute. Whatever that is, stepping away, recharge, break. Maybe it's a mindfulness practice. And then the fifth thing really important for the brain, a healthy brain, is connection and social support. And that's a really challenging one right now for a lot of people because we are physically distancing. So when you rate your own capacity here and then multiply by 2, that gives you a percentage. So we're not looking for 100%. We're not looking for perfection. There's no failing this test. It's only a way for you to look at what might I tweak a little bit. Where do I need to maybe change something so I have a little more energy in that area? So what I'd like to ask is, which area for you was either the lowest or something you really know you need to work on? You need to tweak. Because we want to think of ways to tweak it, right? Yeah, movement and exercise. That's a tough one for people. Sleep, nutrition, and movement. Awesome. Recharge and connection. Fail, okay. And breaks, yeah. So good. I mean, this is about raising the awareness for yourself and thinking about how you might include more of this in your day, especially now. Connect, yeah, connect, social support is hard these days. Connection, social support, okay. 1, 2, and 3. I wanted to say also, just in terms of stress, stress is the relationship between demands in our life and our capacity, the capacity we have to deal with those demands, to feel like I've got this, I can accomplish this. If our demands are so great, and sometimes we can tweak our demands, you know, we could say no to things. Sometimes we can't, they're just there. And our capacity are these things. Our capacity is how well can I deal with that? So if we can tweak our capacity, I'm going to sleep better so that I have more energy and my brain is not so foggy, right? I'm going to eat well. We know food impacts our mood. Food impacts our health, our energy. We know we need to sleep 7 to 9 hours. I'm going back to sleep. 7 to 9 hours a night, 7.5 is about average. So going to bed at the same time every night, waking up at the same time is important to get into this habit. Not looking at terrible news before we go to bed, not reading about it, thinking about, considering what worked well in your day as you lay in bed can really help, again, calm that brainstem, calm the amygdala, I'm safe, and it calms the system down. It gets us back into homeostasis. Okay, so sleep, so important. And then movement and exercise, 20 to 30 minutes a day, they say. Even now, I want to invite you, if you're sitting down, I want to invite you to stand up. Come on. If you don't want to stand up, you can just raise your arms. But when you stand up and raise your arms, and you can inhale and then exhale. So again, with the breath, inhale, lifting your arms. Yeah, and exhaling, bringing them down. And we're just going to do it one more time and stay up there. So inhale, lift. And take your wrist with one hand and just kind of pull it a little and just stretch one side of the body. Noticing your breath. Don't stretch so hard that you can't breathe. And then taking your other wrist and coming over. And then breathing, and then inhale. And then exhale, arms down. You can even make a sound with it. Let it out. Ha. And then you can sit down again if you like. And just that is unbelievable for the body and the brain. Do you feel any different? Do you notice anything?
It's kind of like with pop, where you just kind of take that moment to put yourself into a different state physically.
Well, yes, but physically you're in the same place, aren't you? But we change, our physiology changes. We have oxygen moving through the body, oxygen moving through the brain.
That was very eye-opening for me, because I usually get more movement than I've gotten in the last several weeks. And just doing that, I just felt my whole upper body was just like cement, you know, I felt so much benefit just from doing that. It just tells me how much I am in need of more movement.
And
sure.
You know, you're not alone, because it's so interesting, because we know these things and you've had these good habits and they just got turned upside down. So, you know, it's really taking more intention to do it and to bring it back somehow, even 30 seconds, or just even rolling those tight shoulders, you know. And this is mindfulness. You know, mindfulness is about taking care of this body in all these ways. So we just need to remind ourselves, knowing is one thing, doing is another. So intention, attention, and action. So we've got to put it, I put it, you know, if you don't do, like, even put it in your calendar every 30 minutes. Ding, stand up, stretch. It gets that oxygen going.
Mm-hmm. We just have another comment. Noticeably energized, and I just came in from an hour's walk.
Yeah, the body's just beautiful. Just love it. Yes. So stress in the body, we talked about stress and the body, stress, and now stress and feelings. So these are things related, how people feel when they feel stressed. So these, I'm sure, look familiar. Irritation is really high right now, let me tell you, with many people I talk to. But what's interesting, and these are really legitimate, what's interesting about feelings is that we're often reacting to them subconsciously. We're just, it's there and we react and we respond from impatience. But when we raise our awareness of, oh, this is, okay, this is how I'm feeling, we do a pop, we take a pause, we get that opportunity to respond rather than react. We get that opportunity to, like, call, okay, all right, I'm impatient right now, I'm irritated. Better not talk. And then our prefrontal cortex, again, can maybe get online to say, yeah, best not to send that email right now. You know, best to go for a walk right now. Whatever it is. But often we're responding to these emotions just because we're in the midst of our day. So we want to heighten this. This is a lot around emotional intelligence, right? So noticing our emotions and being able to regulate our emotions. And what I find is interesting, so this is from surveys I did about 6 months ago, but what I'm finding, the words that are coming up now are fear, uncertainty, unstable, weak, cautious. So these are new, you know, these are feelings that we didn't necessarily used to feel so much, maybe sometimes, but now it's like really up. So, you know, a lot of emotions. So these feelings can impact our behavior, right? Individually, we might feel isolated, or we might, you know, individually act out. And then it, of course, impacts our group, from work to family, people we see on the street who, like, didn't get off the sidewalk when I was coming by. Okay, that's mine. I've just admitted it. I'm so irritated when I'm walking down the street and I feel like I'm always the person moving and giving space, you know, and I see some heads nodding. So, you know, it impacts all of it. So I've got to, you know, I'm watching myself. I have not perfected any of this, I'll just have you know. But I'm so aware of when the stuff is arising for me. and how it's impacting me. And when I shouldn't call my mother, she's in Ohio and I'm here, and I worry about her, and then we talk and she wants to talk and it's lovely. But you know, it's like sometimes if I'm busy, I'm like, or irritated, I better not call her. I want to be full of patience when I talk to her. So, so you know, I know what's my temperature now, better not call, right? So your stress signature, where do you notice when stress is showing up in your body? We need to be aware of this. What's the first sign you've got too much stress? My mouth goes, tightens, grind my teeth. But that is so important. Somebody said a tight stomach earlier on, the shoulders. We want to notice, we want to, okay, there, body, you're telling me. Because if we don't listen to the little signs, symptoms start showing up, like migraine headaches, back pain, high blood pressure, you know, this, because the body's, you know, the stress is staying activated. So we want to really connect with our body and know. So what about, you know, for you guys, we all probably know pretty well where we notice stress in our bodies. Where are some of those places for you? Where do you first notice?
We got a stomach. We have a neck. Stomach again. Sometimes I don't really notice how stressed I am until it's too late and I get sick. I also have that issue. Shoulder, whole body, stomach, now it's shoulders and a headache.
Okay.
Neck and shoulder.
Take a deep breath. I want to say two things. One is was it JAMA, the Journal of American Medical Association, said that 70 to 90% of visits to the doctor were stress related. And it's these kinds of symptoms that are taking us to the doctor, right? But it starts early on. So mindfulness and these kinds of practices to paying attention what's going on in the body in the moment, and there is helpful. So you can say, oh yeah, there's that tension in my shoulders. I need to stretch, or whatever it is. I need to take a walk. I need to nap. I need to, you know, that's whatever it is for you. So what has been most helpful for you to recharge and reset? So I know you have some good habits. So let's look at that for a moment. What are some of your good habits?
All right, we got some noticing, or just noticing, breathing and walking. Remembering gratefulness. It becomes so easy. As taking a day away to spend with a girlfriend talking about life, meditating, talking to my grandsons.
Nice.
Going for a walk with my wife before our team call in the last few mornings. Stretch, talk to a friend, and remember gratitude.
Great, great. Yeah, I love hearing this. And again, we have some good habits, and so we need to move. This is a time to cultivate that even more, so we do have an even mind and an even body to walk over uneven ground from that first slide. So I want to teach you a breathing technique if you are in the heightened place of stress. Paced breathing. I think it was, oh, I'm forgetting his name, Benson from Harvard, first introduced this. But it's equal inhalation to our exhalation. So our exhalation activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of our nervous system that puts the brake on, that slows us down. And the sympathetic heightens us and gets us ready. So when we inhale, count of 4, we inhale through the nose, and we exhale through the mouth, like we're blowing bubbles. So I want to invite you to just try that, just kind of, you know, maybe you have to shake your body for a sec, relax the body. And then bring in this breath to the count of 3, 4, or 5, whatever feels full for you. And exhale to the same count, like you're blowing candle or bubbles. And do it a couple more times. So you want your exhalation to be equal to or longer than your inhalation. And that's what slows down the parasympathetic nervous system. Because again, it's just simply sending a message to the brain. If you're taking deep breaths, this system is not under duress. Because if we're threatened and under duress, our breathing is shallow. So just changing the breath sends a message to the brain. Okay, I don't feel threatened, and it helps calm the system. So that's another one. Another thing I want to talk to you about quickly is just what are you paying attention to? And I just, we don't have to really know all these numbers, but what's interesting, 100 billion neurons in the brain, each one firing 1 to 200 times a second, meeting with thousands of other neurons. There's a lot of action happening there. And now we know from neuroscience and neuroplasticity that we can change the brain. So what we do, all these things that you've mentioned that you do that are, healthy and help you relieve stress, and what we do, what we think, and what we pay attention to matters. And it changes the neural pathways in the brain. So if you've ever, learned an instrument or, it's changing I'm learning the piano and I'm back to the guitar, which I haven't played since like 8th grade. So I know some stuff is happening up there and it's very exciting. But so we want to also, stretch our capacity in our brain by introducing new things too. And just having practices, because it changes the neural pathways. And I like this photo because we can teach an old dog new tricks. If you haven't, I can't do that. Yes, you can, if you want to. I mean, I know we can't do everything. I'm not going to be a NASA astronaut, but that's not my desire either right now. But you know what I'm saying? So we can teach an old dog new tricks. We can learn new things. And one of the things in terms of what we're paying attention to is the brain has a natural negativity bias. So getting back to how we stay alive, the brain has evolved so that it pays more attention. The cues for danger come quicker to the brain than the cues for reward. And that's a beautiful system, because if we are in a dangerous situation, we want to know about it soon. Because if we ignore it, it could kill us. This was like evolution. That's not always true now. Now it just gives us an upset stomach. But in evolutionary terms, it could have killed us, that danger. And the reward, we'll get it later. I can get to that later because we'll be alive. So the negativity bias is very strong. So it is even heightened for looking for like, what's wrong? What's going to harm my body? What's going to harm my ego? What's going to, the negativity bias is natural in most humans, but we can shift that a little bit. It doesn't mean don't think negative thoughts or always be positive. It's not that at all. It's just, it's heightened so that we notice danger and so we can protect ourselves from danger. But we can shift that a little bit. And Rick Hanson, well, a lot of neuroscientists talk about this, but Rick Hanson has a book called Hardwiring Happiness. And one of the things that he talks about a lot is savoring a pleasant experience. So I want to do this with you for a moment, because this helps tell the brain, again, it helps shift those neurons and nudge our neurons a little bit from just the negative negativity bias, looking for danger, to like, okay, it's still going to look for there, but then it's got this bank of pleasant experiences, and where it can maybe lean into that direction. So this is savoring a pleasant experience. This is a fun one. So this is, you can close your eyes if you like. It'll be about 2 minutes, I think. Yeah, 2 minutes. And you're just going to recall a pleasant experience. So that's what you're going to do. So I'll guide you through it. And you can, yes, you can close your eyes or keep them open. But recall an experience you've had where it was pleasant for you, where you felt safe, you felt heard, you felt loved, or you just felt comfortable. And have that experience in your mind. And notice where you are. And we'll take that experience in through the senses. What do you see? Colors, images. And then what do you hear? Are there sounds in that experience? And perhaps there's air or tactily on your skin, something you feel. And perhaps there's taste. So through the senses, and then physical sensations, noticing how you felt, noticing emotions during that pleasant experience. And noticing thoughts. What were you saying to yourself about the experience? What were you telling yourself about yourself? And then now in this very moment, noticing your body, how it feels. And then just taking a breath, maybe a little bit deeper, an exhalation, and coming to a close. And this is, and looking around your home, wherever you are. Now this pleasant experience, you can do this recalling one, but also when you see something, when you have a pleasant experience as you go through your day, we pass through them all the time. Oh yeah, that's pretty. Oh, that's a nice sunset. Oh, that's a great tree. You know, oh, beautiful flowers. Stay with it for a few breaths. And this also helps kind of build your bank account for pleasant experiences, for that strength that when you're pulled off, you can like, oh, you've got something to hold on to. So this is something you can do in seconds. And I just want to remind you of this, so your mindful stress management toolbox. These 5 things we talked about. So think about specifically, what are you going to tweak? What is something, you know, we don't want to do big things during this time, but what is the little thing you can do that might improve your health, your health, health of your brain? And then here are some things you can do to interrupt the stress reaction and just to practice every day. Lots of things, from art, music, and humor is wonderful, right? Laughter is so good for our brain. Aromatherapy, nature, family, friends, pets, be kind, contribute. We know that changes the hormones in the brain. And be kind, contribute, shift your posture. Even, you know, like now, if you're like feeling slumped over, if you open up your chest a little, wow, that opens up my chest. And that changes our energy. So little things, daydreaming, that can interrupt it. If you're like really worried and daydream about a vacation you had, that's okay. Daydream about a vacation you're going to have. Give your mind a little pause, a little break, and shift self-negative talk. So these are just some ideas. And then choosing one, I'll just say this quickly. If you're interested in changing habits, I highly encourage you to look up Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg, tinyhabits.com. But he talks about identifying a cue that you do every day. I brush my teeth, I eat lunch, I walk the dog, whatever it is. After you do that, you introduce the new behavior on top of it. After I eat lunch, I'm going to stand and stretch, or I'm going to take a walk around the block. And he says, go so small, so small. And then you reward yourself. So that's how we create new habits. So that's something to look up. If you want to stay connected with me, or, you know, just look up, I have free guided practices that you can get more of. Here's some ways you can find me. There's just so much online now. Yeah, Greater Good Science Center of Berkeley, they have a lot of wonderful resources as well. I highly recommend them. And if you have any to share, I'd love to hear them. And I think the group probably would too. And, or if you have any questions, because we've come to the end of the hour. I can't believe that. A little over, sorry.
Thank you very much, Terry. That was fantastic. Practices everyone can actually use from a day to day. That's so great. Can you stick around for a little bit to answer some questions? Should we?
Yeah.
And can we go to what is it called when we can see everyone's face at once?
Yeah, let me stop sharing.
Gallery.
There we go. Oh yes, I like this.
There we go. Gallery view. If you guys want to switch to gallery view, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Do we want to invite people to unmute so that way they can go ahead and ask questions or share?
Sure. And just recognize that there are, looks like 16 of us here. Mm-hmm. So if 5 of us try to talk at once, that won't work.
Yeah. Or you can use the raise your hand option on there, or you can just physically raise your hand.
So I would just say that you had mentioned this a second ago about how we can actually, we're changing the physical infrastructure of the brain when we meditate. And there's, I don't know where the research was done, Terry, you can probably tell me, but I know that if you meditate for 10 minutes a day for, I think it's 60 days, you begin to decrease the size of your amygdala and your fight or flight response and increase the size. We're talking about the literal size of your frontal cortex. So this is a huge, huge benefit in terms of reconstructing your brain and how you respond to things.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up. And Richie Davidson is one of the researchers who's done so much, and I think he's in Wisconsin. But Richie Davidson, if you're interested in more about that, yeah. Actually, it's amazing. The gray matter changes size in your brain. Beautiful. Anybody else have a question or?
All right.
Comment?
Any recommendations for further resources?
Yes, you know, the Greater Good Science Center of Berkeley has a lot of great resources, practices. You know, my website, as I mentioned, Pop Stress Now, there's some guided meditation. There's apps. If you like apps, Calm is a nice one, C-A-L-M, and it's, you know, they have a lot of free practices. Headspace.
Insight Timer.
What about you? Insight Timer's nice.
I love Insight Timer. Love it.
Insight Timer. Yeah. Anybody else have any favorites?
Are you saying inside or insight?
Insight. There's when I went to Insight Timer, I'm gonna go there right now. One teacher who has 4 half-hour lessons they're all free. His name is, I think it's Brent Merton, but let me just verify. These are 4 30-minute practices. Brent Morton. They are awesome. It's like the basics, Buddhism, soup to nuts, just very simple stuff. So good to sit down and use these as practices. But there's so many that are free.
Yeah. Yes. Those are good ones. Yeah. Good. Anybody else?
Thanks everyone for coming.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I just, you know, remember, little things over time make a difference.
Yeah.
It can be so little, added up over time. It's unbelievable. So we have an opportunity now, I think, to change things, to take care of ourselves, to be more compassionate, to, you know, to introduce some really good habits into our lives, in addition to what you already have. But, you know, we really have an opportunity to change things. The systems have broken down.
Right.
So, you know, I think it's a great opportunity to really take this time to explore ourselves and be really nice to yourselves and be nice to others. Because we're all going through it. It's rough.
Be kind.
Yes.
Be kind.
Always. Thank you.
Thank you.
All
Bye,
right.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everybody. Nice to see some of you that I haven't seen in a long time. Bye.